Good morning if it's morning where you are. Good afternoon if you're joining us later in your day. Oh, good morning from Port. It's a bit early in Portugal, isn't it? It's a bit early here too. Oh, good. Hello, my lovely. And I hope it's not the middle of the night for you. If it is, make sure you get a big blob of sleep later, yeah? So today, and remember what we've been doing so far. So what we're doing is we're starting you off and starting these projects together and then give you the space to finish them up from homework. If you get stuck or if you don't know what's going on, that's fine too. I've been in tech for a million years and it's almost 11 o'clock at night, my lovely. You are a very dedicated learner to be on here at 11. Not your boss and I'm not your mama, but you go get some sleep after this, yeah? So, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be learning about some more CSS. Remember that our first lesson, with that tons of homework you did, or that you'll get to later this week, no pressure, was all about HTML. And HTML is the language that we use that puts content, that puts things on your web pages. That's cool. And then yesterday, we started to learn about CSS. And CSS is the language we use to style our web pages or web apps. Yeah. And today, we're going to be learning a little bit more about CSS because if you're styling something, what is more stylish than color? Yeah. Let's go ahead and get started together. Everything's going to be super chill today. I can't promise the whole world's going to be easy, but all we're going to do today is just little we're just going to explore some stuff. I can't promise that your whole day will be easy or your whole week will be nice. Nothing bad's going to happen in the next hour or so, is it? So we're on freecodecamp.org/learn. And if you've just run into the stream and you're not part of the bootcamp, that's fine as well. You don't have to sign anything with us to hang out. But if you want to, we're running a free boot camp based around free code camp curriculum. There we go. You can go sign up for free and it's going to be super chill. And you might say, oh, we're doing web design. We want to be here. Ah, 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 ah. We're doing the beta. We're some of the first people on this new curriculum. So we're coming all the way to the bottom and we're going to pick this one. Yeah. All chill. And on Monday, we started, but didn't finish because I'm mean. We did about a third of the learning HTML by building a cat photo up together. And you will either finished on your own or you'll get to it later in the week. That's all chill. We did something similar where we did about a third of the building a cafe menu with CSS. And that's to finish on your own. I promise I've done all of these. This is just an account to do these with you. And today we're going to start with learning CSS colors by building a set of colored markers like drawing. It's very chill. Hello. Oh, you're joining us from the Philippines. I think it might be an okay time zone for folks in APAC, isn't it? Hmm. Here's a preview of what you'll build. And I'm not seeing a preview. That's not great. So where the preview didn't show up, but that might just mean it's going to be a surprise. Yeah. This is a very strange question to ask other adults, but we've got somebody asking, hey, what's your favorite color? Yo, what are your favorite colors? I'm very much a blue or a green person myself, especially well early. What Cat? You are bringing a very, very intense energy in here, and it's early in the morning here. I cannot keep up. So hot pink is just turning up that favorite color to 11. I respect it. I just can't match that energy. Someday we'll do a stream that's in the afternoon. I'll be wide awake. Everything will be great. I absolutely love the intensity, but lazy as I am. So you all might remember from your previous projects that we want to do a doc type. I'm going to be very lazy this morning. I'm the worst teacher. Can somebody in the chat give me the syntax for how we're going to do the doc type HTML? Yeah. And it's okay to have to look it up. How do I think we're probably gonna start with these with these little, pointy braces, yeah? Because remember that Sadiq, after my own heart. Thank you so much. So with HTML, we're really building things using these little pointy braces right here. Yeah. And this is a self-closing one. So we don't have to close this. We give it the exclamation point, which is, ha ha. I'm telling you what's going on. We're saying, hey, the doc type, and this is just telling somebody's browser the type of the document we're using. HTML. Ooh. when I can type it right. I think that's all we've got to do for step one. Yeah. Gonna check our code. Are we gonna check our code? Come on, babe. That's weird. So now our preview's working. Computers are always a mistake. So this is what we're going to be building. We're going to be building these really cool looking markers. All right. And now does it want to work for me? Where I say that angular braces, which is who said angular braces? That's a much, much nicer way to say pointy baby braces. Yeah. Let's try this again. We're going to check our code again. Don't give up. Our HTML. Oh gosh, you know what? It wants us to go ahead and make our HTML elements as well. This isn't working because, and this is absolutely on me, I didn't read the instructions clearly. So we do want to declare our doc type. We also want to go ahead and create our HTML element. And if we make it, we should probably close it, yeah? We're going to check our code one more time and everything's going to be fine. Everything is fine. Everything's chill. We're going to go on to the next challenge. We're going to make a head element and a body element. We did this on Monday. We did this on Tuesday. We're going to go a little bit fast just because we've done this a couple times. We feel cautiously confident, don't we? There's our head element with the opening and closing tags. And let's go ahead. We don't need this extra space, the extra white space I've put in there, but I'm going to put that in just so I've got sort of some conceptual wiggle room. Yeah, everything is chill. We're going to check our code. Everything continues to be super mellow. Nothing bad is happening to us. It's just HTML. Can't hurt us. So remember that we're making a title element. Oh, y'all are like throwing the code into the chat after my own heart. What we're going to be doing here is we're going to put a title in. Yeah. And this is saying, hey, the title is good, helpful for search engines. It puts the title in the tab up at the top. And it's just helpful for users, isn't it? We started a title tag, so we're going to close it. And our title is going to be CSS color. Whoa, we're using the US spelling of color, aren't we? Will it work? I'm going to skip putting that U in here. Spiritually, we know a U goes in there. We're going to check our code. Everything. We're just going to go ahead and continue to have everything be okay. Fab. So what's going on here is Free Code Camp isn't part of the bootcamp. They're a completely separate organization that makes these resources, and they're actually a registered nonprofit. If you've got the money and if you want to, it's a really cool thing to donate. But if you don't have them, don't you spend money you don't have. Sasha, you've got a really good question. Why do we have the title nested in title CSS? Oh, cool. So these are two different things, really, aren't they? So here, if you've got a div titles, why do we have the title nested in div title CSS? Is it okay if we come back to this question at the end? It's a good question. It's really, really interesting. I just want to make sure that I'm not going to lose it in the flow, if that's okay. So I wanted to say, I see that. It's a really good question. I'm not ignoring you. And we'll come back and look at that at the end, if that's all right. You're so patient. So we're also going to add a meta tag inside our head. And somebody told me yesterday, I didn't know, that this is best practice. Go ahead and put that above our title. Whenever somebody tells me something's best practice, I just automatically believe them because they're usually right. So we're going to set a meta tag and we're going to set our character set. So here are the type of letters we're using on this website. And that's going to be UTF-8. We could talk a lot about character encoding, um, but we're not going to this time. If you're interested, you can look it up on your own. It's very lazy to be like, "Oh, this is such an interesting field. There's a lot of different character set." Yeah. We're gonna check our code. Everything continues to be fine. We're going way on to step 5. And now, remember we did this yesterday. We're gonna do this again. We're gonna add a viewpoint tag, another meta tag. I think we could put this in our existing meta tag, but it's asked us to do a separate one. Meta. And then we're gonna create a viewport attribute. And what we're really saying here, oh, I'm rubbish. Our name is set to viewport. And you can remember we can use these double quotes or we can use single quotes. It genuinely doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt us. I can even mix double and single quotes, but I can mix them. If you start a double quote, it has to end with a double quote. If you start a single quote, it has to end with a single quote. But I think I can mix those, use double here and single here, and it won't hurt anything. I want to set a content attribute, and I'm setting that to, ooh, am I doing this right? Huh. Name attribute set to viewpoint and content attribute set to, and because I'm a lazy programmer, and I want you to be lazy programmers as well, I'm going to go ahead and put that in. So here, let's just talk through what we've done. We've got a meta tag that we've started. All right. We've put in a name attribute that's set to viewport. That feels okay. We've got a content attribute that's set to width is equal to the width of the device. Yeah. And then the scale is going to be 1.0. So I'm saying, hey, whatever device, whatever screen people are using to look at this, make it as wide as the width of that screen. And when you scale it, keep the scale. Like, don't stretch it or don't squish it. Yeah. We're going to check our code. Everything continues to be chill. Nothing is wrong. Oh, except I'm going to sneeze. Hang on. I'm so sorry. I got dreadfully sick last week and I'm still a little bit snuffly. So we're going to start adding content to our page. So within our body element, we've got this. We're going to add an H1. And this feels like the question we got asked a minute ago. And as soon as we start typing that, that's showing right up there, isn't it? And someone asked me a moment ago, yes, why do we have the title in our head? And then why do we have this again here in the body? Yeah, and that's a really good question. So when we put our title in our head, nothing showed up in our preview, did it? Because our title is just going to show on the tab. So if we want the title to also show on the page in text, we've got to go ahead and create an H1 or an H2 if we want. I'd usually do an H1 here because it's the most important header. But we need to go ahead and write that in a way that's going to show up on someone's browser, so show up on the page. And that's why we've done this twice. We're going to check our code. What do you think everything's going to be fine? Everything is always fine. And even when it doesn't work, it's still fine. It's just a website. So in this project, we're going to be working with 2 different files again. And these are represented here in the sandbox. Remember that we're using an artificial coding environment that makes some of these things kind of easy for us. If you were building this on your computer without this, maybe building this in a text editor that's not in your browser, you'd make a file called index.html and write all your HTML in there. And you'd create another file called style.css and put all your CSS in here. So conceptually, here's our HTML, here's our CSS, and here's our preview. And what we're going to do is right now our CSS file is empty. That's not very helpful, is it? And our CSS doesn't know to go and get Our HTML doesn't know that we have a CSS file. What we're gonna do is we're gonna build a link, and we're gonna link these two files together. We create a file here called link. I'm gonna create an element here called link. I've said file too many times, and now I'm a goof. The rel attribute. So what kind of link is this? It's a style sheet. That's okay. We're going to set the type equal to a text slash CSS. That's okay. And our ref, where we're throwing that link to, where we're actually linking to, is our styles CSS page. Yeah, that feels okay. So what we're doing here is we've got our HTML, we've got our file where our content sits, and we're telling our HTML file, hey, when the browser comes to read this, make sure it also uses this hypertext reference and goes and gets the style sheet. Go and get our style rules as well. That seems chill. Oh, I'm getting a note that our closed captions aren't available on the YouTube stream. I'm really sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and so they should be available afterwards, but they should be available live as well. That's not great. I'm so sorry. Please check back. The video will have closed captioning on afterwards. But I'll check and see if we can't unstick that. And I really appreciate you flagging that. That's not something we want to make a mistake on, is it? Oof. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go on to the next challenge. We're on step 8. So now our index page knows what's going on. It knows that if we're writing CSS, it's going to go and link to those styles. That's super chill. So now the styles CSS one is black. I'm in the styles. If I wanted to see the HTML, I can add that too. We'll take it away for now just because we're not working in here yet. Take you away. And we've got a good hint that this is CSS because we can see our curly braces, can't we? When we see those wiggly braces, we've got a pretty good idea that that's going on. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use a CSS selector. And what I'm saying here is whenever you see an H1, I want you to apply this rule. And text align, when I spell it, is the property we're setting. We're telling our CSS puppy, hey, you know how to do a text align trick. Let's do that trick. And don't forget with these rules, we need to have a semicolon at the end just to keep them separated. Yeah. So we've said our H1, that's what the selector, that's the elements I want to style. I want to use the text align trick, the text align property. And can you go ahead and center that? And as soon as I finish the word center, it comes right over. Yeah, everything's fine. Oh, somebody's saying that the little logo at the top is pretty annoying. It is, isn't it? Give me just a second. I'll get rid of that for just a second. Yeah, we'll put it back. So the only thing that's that is covering stuff up. That's not great. I'll put that back later, eh? Maybe I'll put that down at the bottom. So thank you so much. Somebody in the chat pointed out that they can't see the preview and console buttons when it's up there. We'll move stuff around. Everything's chill. But what we're going to be doing right now is we're going to check our code. I think this is fine. What do you think? Everything continues to be super easy this morning. We are on step 8. We are hustling through this, but we don't have any color yet. This is very boring. We're going to make some divs. And remember that divs are just empty boxes. Yeah? And we're going to set a class. A class here gives us a label that we can do more things with. When you set a class, it's sort of like making a club. So let's go ahead and do this because describing it doesn't really help, does it? So we're going to come into the body and I'm going to make a div. You can do that. Cool. But then I'm going to set a class. I'm going to say, this div has a class. This div is in a club. Yeah? And the class of this div Container. Have I spelled container right? The problems you have first thing in the morning. Somebody's asking, when are we going to complete yesterday's CSS page? I'm so sorry you've got to do that for homework. You've got to do it on your own. I am the meanest teacher in the world. So, what we're aiming to do is get you started together and then give you a little bit of push to finish these individually for homework. I know, so mean. But it doesn't have to be right away. You can complete it tomorrow. You can work on it over the weekend. Everything's chill. So, we've got our div, our classes container. I think we should probably close our div as well. What do you think? We created a box. Let's make sure we close our box too. Yeah, it's below our H1, but we can't see it. Nothing happened yet. I'm reasonably sure this code is right, but we're going to need to do some things to this div in order to make stuff happen. So we've got a div class of container. We've got a box that's this div. We're going to put another box inside our box. It's boxes all the way down. Another div. And we're going to set a class again. And here, the class is different. And here the class... Ooh. Look at me not knowing how to spell marker first thing in the morning. I like teaching because this way you all get to see that you could be goofy all day and still get to work in tech because I'm consistently wrong and it's very relaxing, isn't it? So here we've got a div class of container. We've got an empty box that's in the container club. And then inside that div, we've got another empty box. And that empty box is in the marker club. And we're going to see the value of these classes of putting things in clubs as we come over to the CSS, I think. We're going to check our code. Everything's fine. Yeah. It's just CSS. It can't hurt us. We're going to add some color to the page. And we're going to learn a couple different ways to do color today. And today, that's going to involve starting with the keyword color. And we're going to use these clubs we've just created. Yeah. Remember that when you want to set something, if I wanted to say all of our divs, I want to set a rule for these divs. I would do this by just writing the name of the element. Yeah. But if I want to use a class selector, if I want to do classes, I need to add a full stop first where I'm saying, hey, this isn't targeting every element. Oh, sorry. So sorry. That's very rude of me. I was dreadfully sick last week, so I'm really glad just to be here with you all. If you can stay inside and avoid people, I'd recommend staying inside and avoiding people. Everybody's getting sick right now, aren't we? So when I want to create rules that target classes, when I want to say everybody in this club I've created, I go ahead and write a full stop first. And this is saying, hey, I want to make a rule for the marker class. Say full stop and then marker. And then my beautiful, beautiful swirly braces. What I'm going to do with these swirly braces, I'm going to set my rules. I'm going to say, well, I want to set a background color. And you say, well, Jess, how do I know which rules or how do I know what properties I can do? I say, well, what do we do when we don't know something? We can ask an adult. But unfortunately for you, the adult is me. So usually I'm going to make you experiment or I'm going to make you look it up because I'm mean. You can look it up. If you want to see a list of all the CSS properties, that's going to be over on MDN. I'm going to ask my brilliant colleague in the chat. Oh, even before I've done it, I'm like, can you grab a link to MDN? Already in there. And that MDN is sort of the encyclopedia. Young people, like encyclopedias aren't real anymore, are they? Nobody has those big books of, it's the Wikipedia. There we are, of all the things you need for the web. So we're going to set our background color only for these the marker div. So anybody in the marker club is going to be red. Why aren't you working? Should you be working? All right, I don't like this at all. It says that this works. I know what the problem is. Do we know why it's not red? I think I know why it's not red. I think it's not red because we have a box, but there's nothing really in that box. Me, hmm, yeah. So we've got the marker class here, marker. And we've got our styles, marker. I think there's nothing in that div to be read yet. Yeah, I think if we go on one more, yeah, let's go ahead and see. Yeah. Oh, Primo is absolutely right. Red Jess is right. Legend's right. And you say, well, you know what? You made a box. You gave it. You put it in the marker club. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this thing they did to us where they're like, hey, this will turn the color. And then it says, ha, 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 you might notice that this didn't turn color. And all of you all are right where you say, you know what? This conceptual box, there's no space. There's nothing in it. There's nothing even blank in it. We need to. Right now, it's a box that is invisible, really. We need to give it some size. We're going to make the width property. We're going to set that to 200 pixels. There's a bunch of different ways. Hmm. And still nothing. So we've got it 200 pixels wide, but there's no height. If there's no height, we probably still can't see it. Let's set that to 25 pixels. Ah, what a relief. Everything's fine. So now we have an empty box, but our empty box has width and it has height. And we can color that in because there's space for us to color that in. Everything's fine. And I really like, well, it's a little bit mean, isn't it, to like change the color? Ha ha ha, it hasn't worked. A lot of times things won't work the way you expect them to. Getting really mellow about that. Yeah. And this is philosophy again. We're going to talk a lot about philosophy in coding, but getting really comfortable with being wrong and things being broken, I think was one of the best things to get chill about in programming, isn't it? So right now we were promised we were going to make these beautiful markers. And right now this is just sort of a box, isn't it? And it's not just a box, but it's like shoved over to the side of the page. Oof, oof. In our last project, in your homework, you did this on your own because I'm mean and made you work independently. We learned about margin top and margin left. We can use the margin shorthand to set and center this. Oh, somebody's pointing out, and we've had a couple people mentioning they're having problems with this and say, if you're using Safari, it looks like step one isn't working properly in Safari. I'm never one to bully you about which browser you should use, but you may want to switch browsers just to get past step one in Safari. I'm so sorry, my loves. I'll go ahead and I'll raise an issue on that as well. So let's go ahead and center it. Margin. We're going to set that to auto. Yeah. So we're like, hey, just go ahead and automatically set the margin on the top, the margin on the right, the margin on the bottom, and yeah. So we could go through and individually set this, but auto just says, you know what, we trust you. Just go ahead and move that to the middle. It's going to be chill. Oh gosh, and someone was saying they had some problems with Chrome and the cafe menu. I am really sorry. I'm really excited to be working off this beta, um, working off the beta because I think it's a much better way to learn. But one of the challenges behind beta stuff that's not quite flawlessly done yet is sometimes we'll have a couple little bugs. Yeah. We're going to check our code. Everything continues to be. Ooh, Leanne, I love this question. Does auto always make the margin equal on all sides? It's going to try to. Um, the cool thing is there's almost, unless I'm willing to lie to you, an abstraction where we take away some of the complexity when we teach. That's kind of a lie, isn't it? Auto is always going to try to make everything equal. There oh, have you ever heard the term edge case? Yeah? So in programming, sometimes you'll get edge cases where you're like, "Oh, here's an error," or "Here's a weird thing," and it almost never happens. Here we're talking about the beta for this learning environment we're using has a couple of little edge cases to say, "Oh, it works." Unless you happen to be on Safari for step 1, and then that doesn't quite work. Someone's asking, well, why are we using the beta one? I think the beta's a lot better to learn from. There's a couple of little tiny issues, but so far as being able to learn independently, I'm a big education nerd, and I really love that these are project based. You get a big sense of satisfaction when you finish it. So, will Auto always try to make the margin equal on all sides? Yeah, it's possible to do something weird, but you'd kind of have to try. So we've got step 40. We've got our div centered and it's colored. Let's go ahead and let's make other markers, shall we? So we were to make another div. You all are so patient with me being just snuffly and miserable. I promise not to get sick again all year. How's that? That seems fair, right? You know what I'm doing? Is I'm missing an opportunity to be lazy, aren't I? This is asking me to make 2 more divs with the class of marker just like we've got. Shall we be lazy? Let's be lazy. I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to put Command or Control C, depending on what your computer looks like. And I'm going to put Command V. I'm going to paste it. So now I've got 2. I'm going to make 3. And I'm going to paste it again. Ooh, my formatting's a little weird, but I'm a little weird, so it's not going to hurt me. So what we've done, what it looks like is it looks like we've got one big red block. But what's really going on is we've got 3 red blocks on top of each other. They don't have enough breathing room yet. Ooh, can we ooh, heck, sorry. Can we color the margins to see that the margins have been applied? You can absolutely do this. I'm not mean to you. I'm mean to you all the time. But I'd recommend looking at maybe properties like border in CSS. Border would be what I would look up on MDN to look at how I could trace the outside of these to see them. Yeah. Oh, sorry. And somebody's asking, well, why are we nesting so many divs? So we're nesting these different divs because we're going to make each of these divs a marker. So we're going to do some CSS start. Yeah. And right now, we haven't done a good job. We've just got one big red box. Well, that's not what we want to do. Let's go ahead and hustle along and make this a little bit better. So we're inside the div class of container. That's chill. And that's sort of a box that holds our markers. Right now, all our markers are red and they're right up next to each other. I bet we're going to change that. So right now we have 3 different div elements and they just look like one big rectangle. We're going to add some space. So in our marker, we're going to set the margin property to 10 pixels auto. I think we could do this 2 different ways. I'm usually wrong. I'm often auto. Let's go ahead and do it in here. When in doubt, let's make this as lazy as possible. Is that going to work? Oh, what we've done there is we've set our margin top to auto. And when I said 10 pixels, that set the margin right. That's not what we want to do. So in our CSS margin, in our CSS, set the margin property to 10 pixels. Auto. Ah, everything's fine. Somebody else is pointing out, hey, could we do this with padding? My lovely, you could absolutely do this with padding. We're doing it with margins here. You could add padding as well. Similar kind of vibe, conceptually different, philosophically different, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, my coding adventure. You are after my own heart. And you're saying, you know what I did? I changed this around and messed with it. I changed the color of my borders, the border prop, to see how big my box was. Perfect. And I love this. Experiment, get weird. This is your project. Nobody, I mean, aside from the tests, nobody can tell you what to do. There's no boss on the internet until you work in tech, and then your boss is always on the internet. We're going to check our code. And this is saying, cool, we've got 3 different markers. They don't look great so far, but let's keep going. So in school, we learned that red, yellow, and blue are the primary colors, but computers are weird. We're using a different model. We're saying, well, red, yellow, and blue were fun when you were a little kid, but now that you're grown, we're using the red, green, blue color models. And this means that we're going to add red, green, and blue in different measurements to get the colors we want. So this is called the additive model. So where we add different colors in. And in print, there's a different model where you mix cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. But we are not messing with printing. All we're going to worry about is RGB for right now. So we're going to add some more classes to these. These all have the class of marker, and they're all in the marker club. But we're also going to add another class. And that class is the class 1. And that seems okay. We seem chill with this. Oop. I did add the class. What do we think? We should add the class of 1. How do we add? Can we do it here? Okay. And we don't add a comma or anything here? Let's look at the HTML and make sure we did that right. I trust these tests. I just don't trust me. Yep. Div class marker 1, no comma. I'm just up here early in the morning drinking a little bit of coffee and doubting myself. So we did that right. That feels right. And now we're going to take the background color rule away. We said we've made all 3 of our markers red. And that's not what we're going to do. What's going to happen here? I think, do you know what? While I was talking about coffee, I'm not going to tell you. What do you all think is going to happen when I delete this line, when I take away the background color of red? What are you going to see in the preview? You love how lazy I am, where I'm like, ha ha ha, I'm going to ask you a question so I can get a coffee. I think that this is going to take away our red boxes. I think we're not going to see anything. We'll still have our divs. Perfect. It's going to be blank. We're only spaces. We'll still have our divs. They'll still be the same size, but Ashwari, perfect. They're going to be invisible boxes because there's no color. Y'all are absolutely perfect. Look at you. So what we're going to do here instead is we're going to set a rule. We're going to just start making rules for our our class called 1. When we make rules for a class, it starts with a full stop, doesn't it? Club that marker is called 1. The class is 1. Here we're going to set our background color. Loudest keyboard in the world, isn't it? We're going to set our background color to red again. Yeah, that feels okay. That feels the other 2 markers are definitely there. They just don't have any color yet. So we're going to hustle through these next bits a little bit fast. And it says, hey, what you've done there, you've got a div with a class of marker. And they've all got the class, but the first div has a class of 1. Let's go ahead and let's add a class of 2. We don't see anything yet because there's no rules for them. And a class for 3. Yeah. Oh, so Miko's asking, well, why doesn't it have a border? What's the deal here? So we'd have to specify a border. Hang on, let's check our code and let's go on to the next challenge. Let's get Let me get you. What does my watch want? My watch wants to tell me that it's late in the day. I'm going to give you all CSS docs for border, but let's go ahead. I keep telling you to experiment and get weird, but I'm not getting weird. Let's get weird for a second. So let's go ahead and add a border just so we can see. We'll delete it again, I promise. Border is another trick our CSS puppy can do. And I say, give me a solid border. Ooh, make it pink. Oh, that's not very good. Make it blue. Didn't work either. So let's just go ahead and experiment. Solid. We can make it thick instead of solid. Didn't work either. We want to say maybe 5 pixels. Oh, somebody's telling me not to do the comma. Ooh, it's rubbish, isn't it? Because sometimes they want commas and sometimes they don't. And I promise you that I will just consistently forget what wants it and what doesn't. 5 pixels on green, we think? Yeah. So we can look stuff up and we can get, oof, it's very, very assertive colors next to each other, aren't they? So we could go ahead and do borders. We're not going to do that quite yet because we're going to go ahead and do the rest of these and hustle along because the faster we go, the less homework you have to do on your own, less lonely homework. We're going to set the background color for class 2 to green. Feels chill. All right, cool. We're starting to see where our markers are going to come in, yeah? We're going to set our background color. Y'all get me singing to myself first thing in the morning. Isn't that just absolutely cruel? We're going to set that to blue. Yeah. Everything's fine and everything's going to be fine. And I want to talk for just a second about why we've done it this way. And when I say I'm going to talk, I'm going to be mean to you and I'm going to make you tell me. Why do you think we've got one club, one class for marker that all of these share, and then we've got separate classes? Why do each of these markers have 2 classes, one class of marker, and one class for 1, 2, and 3? I'll let you think about that just a second before giving you a spoiler. And this is so that we can set different types of rules. When I say, okay, all of these are markers, I want to be able to quickly set things like the size and the margin for all of them because they're going to share these rules. This additional class right here, Aravav, perfect. You're absolutely right. So here we've said, you know what? This marker class is for these shared rules. Sadiq's got it as well. Cesar, perfect. So these are reusable. If we didn't have this marker class, we'd have to write or copy and paste width, height, margin for each of these. And when we wanted to change it, Leanne, I love this. Code reusability. Yeah, we don't want to have to write this a bunch of times. Let's just make a class. Who are the best programmers? Lazy people. And we are gloriously lazy today, aren't we? Let's go ahead. We've made all these colors. Let's keep hustling along. Nothing bad's going to happen. So we've learned that the RGB model is additive. And what that means is the color you start with, the 0, is black. And then we add other colors and we mix them a lot like mixing paint. So what we're going to do here is we're going to set, let's look at our HTML again. Whoop, whoop, go away, CSS. Remember that we have a div that contains all of our markers, like a box for our markers. And that's called container. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and, goodbye HTML, hello CSS. We're going to go ahead and set a rule for that container. So our class of container, remember we start with a full stop when we want to target a class. We're going to say, well, we've got that box. We're not really using it. And this is going to be really interesting because we haven't set a size for the container class. We haven't said, here for marker, we say, well, it's 200 pixels wide, 25 pixels wide. We haven't set any rules for container So this rectangle, this conceptual box we're going to see in a second, is going to be big enough to contain all of its children. And we're going to set the color in a different way this time. We're going to use this RGB shorthand. We want it to be black, and we know that 0, 0, 0. So nothing, woo, that's black. So we've got this container which is as wide as our viewport. So if I change this, the size of that is going to responsively change. And it's black because here, what we're really saying, and let's talk about this really briefly, is it's additive. When I say RGB, the numbers that follow is the amount of red, the amount of green, and the amount of blue we're putting in. Oh, Adani, you're perfect here. The container is going to take the body width by defaults. Yeah, Sadiq, I love this as well. So you are aggressively right here. You are so distinctly correct that I cannot bear it. So what we've asked for here is give me 0 red. I want no red at all. And then we come to the next one and I ask for blue and I say, give me 0 blue. Do not give me a touch of blue. And then I come to the last one, I say, oh, give me 0 red, then give me 0 green. And then finally I say, give me 0 blue. I want nothing. I want only black. And Sadiq has made a really good point here to say, well, you know what? If we wanted white, we would turn it up to the maximum. If we've got between 0, forgive me, none of this color, and 255 for the maximum, how would I make this red? When I'm writing this out, I would say, hey, give me 255 red. Give me the maximum red. Give me all the red you have. And this gets weird. You're like, oh, how would I make pink? How would I make this perfect pink that's in my head? You can look it up. Some designers just magically know these. They've got them deep embedded in their souls, but not me. I look them up all the time. We're going to check our code. Everything continues to be fine. We're going to keep going. So we're going to learn about functions. Yeah. And we're going to learn a little, oh gosh, who here is also taking JavaScript class? The JavaScript class is going to have a lot of functions in it. But what's really happening with the RGB function is it's doing something. So it's doing work for us. And that's really what a function does. And I like this because it says, oh, Rajesh points out like, oh, can we use hex codes? We could totally use hex codes. I bet we'll get to that in a little while, huh? Yep. And Aravav is pointing out, you got to look up hex codes all the time. You got to look up RGB all the time. I never remember these. If you say, oh, just make it red, I know that 255 is red. But if you say, oh, just make it magenta, I got to look it up. So here what we're going to do is we're going to, in the one rule for our CSS, we're going to take, we're going to cough directly into the mic like a terrible person. You all are so patient with me being just sick and gross. We're going to take away this keyword red. Oh, and the little red box. What we're going to do instead is we're going to set this using RGB. I'm just going to talk you through it super fast. What we're doing with the RGB function is we're giving it 3 values. And I always think of this as, give me so much red, please. Give me so much green, please. Give me so much blue, please. And that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to say, the first thing we ask for in this function is, please give me all of the red you have. Nothing has happened yet because we haven't given it enough information. It knows we want a color. It knows we're using RGB, and it knows we want maximum red, but maybe we want maximum blue as well. And that would make sort of a yellow. Weird. It's conceptually challenging, isn't it? We don't want yellow. We want red. So give me maximum red. Please don't give me any green at all. And please don't give me any blue. So this gave us the exact same value for red as using the keyword red, but it's just teaching us a different way to do it. Yeah. We're going to check our code. Everything's fine. We're still hustling. We're going to do the exact same thing for green and blue. Yeah. RGB, is the function. Here's and the values for our function goes in these nice smooth braces, yeah? Ooh, Donnie makes a good point. If you click on the color, we could change the options for color, which is super cool. Let's do that in a second. So here, I want 0 red. I want and box number 2, or div number 2, is supposed to be green, so I want the maximum green. I don't want any blue at all. Ooh, ooh, that gave us a very, very kicky one. And we've got a little bit of a color thing here that gives us sort of a color picker built right in. We could click here. Hey, and this will tell us the RGB, which is super. Oh gosh, that's not actually the RGB I want. Go back, go back. So we've got a little extra tool in our sandbox that gives us a little bit of some extra help. We're going to come in, we're going to do the exact same thing just to get some practice. So RGB is the format we're using again. Give me 0 red. Give me 0 green, but go ahead and give me all of the blue you have. We got this. This is super chill. I bet if we check our code, we're going to get told that everything is fine. We're on step 24. We are absolutely burning through this. Y'all are still going to have a ton of homework though, because I'm beat. So red and blue look the same as the keywords, but that green is real bright, isn't it? Like that's a lot of green. We want to go ahead and turn it down, yeah? So we've asked for all the green it can give us, and it's given us maximum green. And now we're saying that's a lot of green. How about let's go ahead and get less green. 127. So we had a question here. So Tech Junkie is saying, so CMYK is secondary colors combined from RGB. So CMYK is going to be of different philosophy for building colors. That's really based on layering physical pigments. So they're using a very, very different conceptual base. So on a screen, we use RGB because that's sort of the way light works. But when we're talking about paint or when we're is that not right? When we're talking about paint or pigments, we would use CMYK. Yeah. So we've got 2. We wanted to turn our green down. Let's take a look at that again. So maximum green, way too bright. And now we want to take a look at 127. Oh, you know what? Somebody is suggesting I'm wrong, and I love this. CMYK is used in computers as well, used on monitors as well. I am so excited to be wrong. I had always thought that these were sort of printing and pigment versus the way we do this. I really appreciate. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lie. Can I? Oh, Ayush asking, when do we use HSL? We're going to get there, I bet. So right now we've learned how to use keywords and we've learned how to use this RGB. We're going to learn about hex codes, which is another concept, and we're going to learn about HSL. I think probably in this lesson, yeah. So we've turned our green down. We didn't want that. But one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab CMYK. Oh, here we go. Here's the subtractive. Look at how lazy I am. I am giving you the Wikipedia. And it's not even, this is not me saying you have to read this because I was wrong. This is me saying, oh, I always thought CMYK was primarily about physical pigments. I'm adding this to my own reading list, just in case anybody else was interested as well. So it is the subtractive color model. This is what I'm going to do instead of doing my work. This is what I'm going to do at lunch. If my boss is watching, obviously I'm going to do my work too. Let's go on to our next challenge. We're just absolutely zipping along. It's Wednesday, isn't it? We're zipping along on this Wednesday. You know what? We want a little bit more space between our markers and the box. We've got a black box for our markers, but our markers go way to the end, isn't it? Let's go ahead and let's add some. Who was it earlier who was asking about padding? Because you were absolutely right. So padding feels similar to margin. It's a little bit different, but it's kind of different in a philosophical way, isn't it? You're getting some space, you're getting some breathing room either way, but one of them gives you a little bit of extra chubby space, and one of them moves you further away. Yeah. So we're going to add 10 pixels to the top. Oh gosh. So this is clockwise, isn't it? So 10 pixels at the top. Oh, and I'm reversed as well, so I'm gonna have to point left when I mean right. Oh, hang on. Where? Oh, you asked for padding. I swore you are absolute. You knew this was coming. Where you're like padding, and I'm like, yeah, padding. So the way the shorthand for this works is, we can set it by saying 10 pixels at the top, and I'm reversed. So that, yep, I gotta point right, left to point right. 0 pixels on the right, 10 pixels on the bottom, and 0 pixels on the left. So I think what we're going to do, I never remember if we add a comma. 0 pixels. Then I want 10 pixels, then 0 pixels again. Rajesh, you're asking a really, really good question here. So, what's the difference between margin and padding? And I love this question because it's so good. So, it's really sort of a conceptual one. So, margin is saying make sure there's at least this much space between this, whereas padding is saying, hey, again, give me this much space, but do it by sort of bulking out my element. Add this extra wooft to this element. Let's go ahead and get the, if I could ask my brilliant assistant. Ooh, Frederico says, you know what? You could only do this with two. You could do this by saying 10 pixels for the top and bottom, and then the second value for left and right. Can I? Can I? Ooh. Oh, I can. You are as wise as you are interesting, as absolutely brilliant as you are patient. I think we can do it either way, can't we? It'll accept giving all four values. It better accept giving all four values. Oop. Sadiq has got this. So margin is adding space to the outside, whereas padding is adding space to the element itself. So philosophy, right? Margin, yeah. Sorry that I'm laughing. It's all faintly ridiculous. So, primary colors are colors that when you combine them become pure white. So, before you combine colors, set my green marker back to pure green. Okay. That's all it wants. You want me to set that back to like super, super bright green? That seems weird because you just made me change the green and you're having me change it back. Well, I got no complaints. This is an easy step. So now we're going to mix them. So we've got our container. We're going to set red, green, and blue to 255. And this is going to feel weird. So 000 is black. What do you think 255, 255, and 255 will look like? Setting all of them to 0 gets me black. Setting all of them to the maximum will get me... What do you think? Yeah, Chris is saying, you know what? I think it's going to be white. And I think you're right. Let's first set maximum red. All right, that is super heckin' red. Let's set maximum. Oh gosh, that's over max, isn't it? Maximum green and red gives me yellow. But adding maximum, we got white. Super chill. Everything's chill. And you say, Jess, why have you made a white box? And I said, maybe I want to be able to center that. Maybe I want to be able to add that padding. Having a box that's invisible can still be really useful. We're going to check our code. We're going to bop onto the next challenge. I'm really, let's do just this one because we're about to run out of time. And then we're going to spend some time answering questions and chilling out. Maybe let's do two more. Just because I want to do a little bit of mixing. So secondary colors happen when you combine primary colors. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine maximum red and maximum green. And we saw what happened last time, didn't we? We got yellow when we did this. Ooh, yeah. And you say, "Oh, Jess, how do I know what color makes what?" This is a situation where you just want to get weird, isn't it? So mess with colors, make the weirdest colors you can. Yeah, nobody's going to tell you what to do except for the tests. Let's check our code. I know we're at time and I know you all are super busy. Let's just sneak in one or two more, okay? Let's combine maximum green and maximum blue. What do we think we're going to get max green and max blue? Ooh, oh, we've got this cyan. We've got yellow. We've got this really nice bright blue. These are super fast. And let's try magenta. So magenta is going to be maximum red and maximum blue. Oh, no, this still doesn't look very much like a marker, does it? We're going to do one more. And this is going to just show us how we can sort of continue to mix and continue to explore. So here we're going to keep our red at max, and we're going to set our green to 127. So give me halfway. This is giving us this sort of orangey one. Very, very chill. And because I am the meanest instructor in the world, what I'm going to ask you to do is finish these on your own. We got all the way up to step 32, but if we come and look at the curriculum, we're going to take a deep breath because we're going all the way down. Whew. We're ready to come all the way down again. We've got a ton of stuff we've still got to do on. We did these, they just didn't show up. We've got a ton of stuff we've got to do on our own today. So if you're part of the boot camp, when you're doing your homework, what do you do when you get stuck? Where can you get help? This is not a rhetorical question. Let me know where you can get help. So you could go to. So what we need to. Donnie's asking a really good question. Do we need to try all the colors for primary to secondary and tertiary? You can explore, you could poke around with them. I don't think you're going to have to try every single intermediary color to do this. So if you get stuck, Primo's making a really good point. You could say, you could Google or you could DuckDuckGo. You could search on the web. And this is a really good way to get you unstuck. Leanne and Sadiq and Frederico are like, hey, hey, hey. We could also go to the forum. Yeah. Or we could head to the Discord again. Primo, MDN, look at you after my own heart. Be like, I think I could look this up in the Wikipedia of the web. Yeah. So even if you're stuck, it doesn't feel good to be stuck, but you can web search it or for what the problem is. And you know, most of these, somebody just said, Chris, you said you're stuck at 78. Let's take a look at 78. Yeah. Oh no, this is a little bit of a spoiler, isn't it? We're like, oh, look at all this additional styling. And you can come and get me. Um, Peter Peter makes a really good question to say, well, you know what? I could just skip to the next exercise and see what the answer is. You could, but I gently discourage if you're like super stuck and nobody's answering your questions in the forums, you could do that and get yourself unstuck. But the reason I'm asking you to do this homework alone is because I'm mean. But it's also because I don't I don't care. Sounds very unkind. I'm less concerned with you getting the answer right. I'm more concerned with you going through the process and feeling what it feels like. And this is going to sound impossibly cruel because I'm very mean. But getting stuck and reasoning through the problem and getting yourself unstuck is going to be the one of the best ways to learn. Abdullah, I love your question. I said, well, you know, as a programmer, and you better be calling yourself a programmer already. Everybody who's doing this, y'all are already web developers. You can call yourself a web developer. If anybody tells you you're not, I'll fight them for you. I mean, on the internet with I'm an old lady. I'm not going to get in a fist fight for you. But you are absolutely a programmer right now. How can we choose the best color? And we're going to talk about this later on in the course as well. But some things you want to think about are, is this color distracting? If I have hot pink and white, woo, that's going to be a little bit intense. Is there enough contrast? And there are contrast checkers online. So is it going to be easy to read or easy to see? Is a really good question as well. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk through step 78. Somebody else is saying, can we take a look at step 16? Let's look at that in just 1 second. Oh, you've been stuck for a while, my love. Krishna makes such a good point, says, you know what's good? You know what really should inform the colors we pick? Color fear. And how relaxing is this? Where, you know what, if you've got the time and if you've got the energy, reading about color theory and reading about colors is such a relaxing way. Yeah. So let's look at this one. Then we're going to come back for Zahra and look at step 16. Everything's chill. So looks like our sleeve disappeared. What happens? Our new cap div is taking up the entire width of the marker. This is because display property for div elements is block. Okay. And we talked a little bit about this yesterday. So block elements stack like blocks, and inline elements will all squish together. So in order to put these divs on the same line, we're going to set the display to inline block. Okay. So what's the div? Huh. Huh. Which div are we working with? Looks like our sleeve has disappeared. Our new cap div. Is there a div with the title of cap? There is a div with the class of cap. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to set. Ooh, so we got a CSS. I'm rubbish. We're going to create a new rule that targets both the cap class and the sleeve class. Okay? That feels okay. Sadiq, you are a sweetheart. You're giving me the answer and keeping me lazy. I'm not picking favorites, but I do appreciate it. So what we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to set the display to inline block. Yeah. How does that feel? Did that fix it? Huh. Cap and sleeve. Oh, commas. I am rubbish. You are just out here carrying your elderly teacher through these classes. This one needs a comma. Let's try that one more time. Oh, everything's, and we're seeing that go ahead and give us those sort of the thing we were looking for. That's super. Thank you so much, y'all. And you all are so polite when I'm wrong. We're like, Jess, come on, you know a comma goes there, and I'm like, I know a comma goes there. I should. So let's come up here. And we had somebody asking about step 16 as well. And we did that together, but we are going to go back and take a look at it together just to chill out. Did you say, was I saying 16? Yeah, my lovely. Let's go ahead. And getting stuck is never fun, is it? So we're going to add class 1. And this is where I always get stuck. Remember that you all just had to yell at me where you're like, hey, if you're selecting more than one class, you need a comma. And here, we don't need a comma. We've added our first div has a class of marker, and it also has a class of 1. We could check our code, and it says, everything's fine. You have 2 classes associated with it. You have a space between those, and that is completely allowed. That is extremely legit. Yeah, everything is extremely okay. Frederico, like me too, babe. So you all are just gonna consistently see me forget to put a comma in. Forget which elements are closing. I've been doing this for a million years and I still forget. You can forget. It doesn't make you a rubbish programmer. Everything's fine. So forgetting it, super normal. And I meet a lot of folks who are learning who say, oh, I need to get to a point where I don't have to stop and look stuff up anymore. And I always have to give them the bad news that you're always going to have to stop and look stuff up. It's not bad. You're not going to look goofy. I'm no goofier than I do. So pretty goofy. But it doesn't make you look unprofessional to have to look stuff up. Anybody you're working on a project with who's a decent person is going to be chill with that. I mean, you're going to run into jerks in the world, and that has nothing to do with programming. That's just jerks. Ooh, so when to use background versus background color? So let's go ahead and oh gosh, Ava, you're heading off. Have a really, really easy morning or afternoon. Donnie makes such a good point. So we're going to look at background and background color in just a second. But I want to, Donnie's like, oh, you know what? IDE, and those are these coding environments that some we could use. Right now, the coding environment we're using is the sandbox. We're using, and sometimes you'll hear people say text editor or an IDE. These are in the same conceptual space. But some of them, so Donnie, which one are you using? Um, a lot of people use like VS Code, for example. I use a text editor called Sublime, and a lot of them give you hints, and that's really helpful. Yeah. Monica's asking, hey, when do I use background and when do I use background color? And you know what we're going to do here. We don't know something we can ask an adult, which is what we're doing. Um, And then I think the second one is look it up. Oh, Donnie's saying that they use VS Code, Visual Studio Code. A lot of people are coming in to say VS Code. If you're just starting to learn with us, and you're only coding inside the free code camp environment, that's completely fine. You don't need to worry about IDEs yet. Everything's chill. We can learn about them later on. Nothing's going to hurt you. So, background MDN. So, here's what's going on. Our background doesn't just give us color. This lets us set a bunch of different things to our background. We say, oh, give me a background that's green, or give me a background that repeats and it's an image like a tiled background image would be terrible. So this gives us a lot of different options. Background clip. What's background clip? What? Background clip. Oh, cool. So it's clipping. Visual effect when the border has transparent regions or so the difference between background and background color only sets the color, whereas background is a whole different series of options. I can set the size of the background. I can set it to repeat. I can make it an image if I want to. Yeah. And here's some of the syntax. When in doubt, MDN is going to hook you up. Oh, heck, where? There we are. Let's drop that in. Thank you so much. That's such a good question. And someone's asking, Abdullah's asking, I like this. Well, why do we need an IDE? And this is a really good question. So, actually, you know what? What does IDE even stand for? Integrated Development Environment. Huh. So, an integrated developer environment, an IDE, is a program so it's a program on your computer that you write code in. Some of them, they can be super simple. If you've ever used Notepad, do people still use Notepad? That can be a text editor. That could be an IDE. Leanne's pointing that out. Just Notepad is fine. Notepad is an integrated development environment because it lets. But these ones that have extra features like VS Code or Atom, they give you some stuff like syntax highlighting. So they'll like let you know when something looks weird or something looks unexpected. Yeah. Abdullah also asked, like, hey, what's the best IDE? And you know what? The best one is the one that works best for you. People like to argue about which one they like best. Um, and I am not a purist. I say, well, right now, if it's not, I don't want to hold you back, but right now, while we're just learning the syntax for HTML and CSS, let's stay inside the coding environment in Free Code Camp, just for now. And then when we start to experiment beyond it, that's when you say, oh, I want to try Atom, or oh, I want to try Sublime. We'll get there. Oh, Nikki, did I miss one of your questions? I'm so sorry, my love. Where? Can you give me your question one more time? I've missed it. I'm so sorry, my love. Rajesh is suggesting that maybe I'm a voracious reader. These days, I buy more books than I read. I'm so sorry. I'm the laziest. I'm not just a lazy programmer. I'm just lazy. Where? Does anybody else have any questions? Leanne, I'm going to put your comment up here because I think this is so useful. Leanne saying, I've been and I love the way you've said that. You said, "I've been dealing with code." And oof, that is a whole mood right there. You'd be like, "Look, I've had to mess with code. Like, code just happens, and I have to deal with it." Love it. I've been dealing with code for years and years, and you're still having to look stuff up in PHP, even if you've done it a million times. And that is so reassuring. Leanne is super good at stuff, and Leanne's out here saying, "I still got to look this up all the time." Very relaxing, very chill. We're gonna come all the way down. Yeah. Okay, so we've got a debate in the comments where folks say, "Actually, this editor is better. Actually, this editor." I trust y'all's good judgment. I am the only person this I am one of the few people who doesn't have strong opinions about dev tooling. One of the nice things about programmers is we love to argue, and a lot of times we like to argue about stuff that doesn't really impact us. So I say, "Oh, the best text editor is the one I use." Like, the best text editor is the one that's best for you. Oh, cool. Does anybody else have any questions I can help you with today? If not, yeah, Donnie, it is 3 in the morning. You go. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm suggesting go to bed, my sweetheart. Class is over. We're just doing the question and answer. Get some sleep. Get some sleep. And don't forget that these streamed lessons are available afterwards as well. So these you can come back and watch them later. They're on YouTube. You don't need to be up at 3 in the morning. The only extra benefit you get about being live is I can see your comments and fuss at you as an individual to go get some sleep. Yeah, Sasha, let's go ahead and talk about this. So you asked this question before. We touched on it really briefly. I want to talk about it a little bit more because I think this is super, super valuable. Let's go ahead and let's come to our curriculum. Sasha is fabulous. Telling us we haven't done any of these, and I think that's a lie. There we go. You give this back to me. So you remember that we've got our title element, and this is where we did our title element, wasn't it? Color markers. You remember later on, we came down and we added it in the body as well. So when we make a title tag, the place that goes is to the top of your tab. If you, Sasha, you're watching us on YouTube. If you look at the top of your browser window in YouTube, what does it say? I think it'll say something like, "Let's learn CSS colors," maybe? I don't even remember the title I put in. That's gonna be what your title tag displays. So it's gonna be what displays in the top of that. Whereas when we went through, I think that might be step 6 or 7. Oh, yeah. Whereas when we came in and we put that in the div, is it an 8? Nope. Is that 7? When we've got that down here, body H1 CSS markers, we've got that written here. Let's move to step 6 so we can play with it. The reason we have it in our title is so that it displays at the top of the tab for our user. But here, we also want it to physically say it on our page. H1, this will write my text on the page. So what we're doing really by doing it twice is we say, "Hey, I want the title to show up in the tab and I want it to show up in search engines." But when I do it a second time, when I do it as an H1, this is when I say, "Oh, I also want the title to show up on the page." Ah, So I'm doing it twice. Once to make it the title at the top of the tab, and once here because in this case, I want the text CSS color markers to show up on my page for my user. So I've written it once to go in the tab and twice to show up here. Yeah. Sadiq is making a really good point. So, Sadiq, you were explaining this so much better than me. You're such a sweetheart. The title tag sets the title for the whole page, whereas here, this H1 is just writing it where we can see it. Oh, super chill. Yeah. Fedris is asking, did we do the language declaration in HTML? It was. This is a big part of why I like the beta one better. Is it's actually the first thing we did. Is it? Is it? Is it? The first thing we did. What? Yeah, yeah. I know the preview. The first thing we're going to do is set our doc type. So this beta one has been so good about giving us a lot more of the structure of the HTML, which was kind of abstracted away in the traditional curriculum. Sasha, does that feel like a good explanation? So the title tag is to put it at the top of your tab and to make it searchable, whereas our H1 is putting that same text, the same text as our title, because we wrote the same text twice. That's just putting it on the page for people to see. That feels okay? My lovelies, I'm going to be look at this, the smile when I say I'm going to be cruel to you. Let's talk homework. So together we did about a third of this, a little bit less than a third, I confess, because I am the worst. That's about a third. What I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to finish all of this on your own. Isn't that monstrous of me? And not only am I giving you the homework of trying to finish all of this, I'm also going to give you my favorite homework, your regular homework, which is if you're going to bed right now, good, go to bed. Tomorrow, please try to have the easiest, gentlest day for yourself that you can. Or if you're just starting your morning or if it's the afternoon, go as easy on yourself today as you can. Yeah, today is going to be super, super chill. Tomorrow's Thursday, so we don't have a regular class tomorrow. We do have a guest speaker, though. So if you'd like to join us for the guest session, come on back. It's going to be in the portal, in the bootcamp portal. There we go. We're having Barbara Oakley and Zach Caceres, and they're going to talk to us about how to best learn programming, which is super cool. But don't forget, your homework is to finish the first 3 projects, and it'll probably be the most useful for you if you finish that this week, yeah? And your homework is to have the chillest day possible. Yeah. Leanne's pointing out, you know what? There's links on the Class Central page, and you can set up reminders in your calendar. Yeah, and it'll show in your time zone because time zones are real tricky. Fabulous. Your homework is go ahead and try and get through these first 3 projects. If you got to finish them later, you got to finish them next week, no big deal. Your important homework is to be as gentle to yourself as you can. I'm going to let you go to have a very good morning, a very easy afternoon, or if it's the middle of the night, go to bed. I will chat to you all tomorrow when we will have a joint guest session. We'll be hanging out with the JavaScript class as well. It's going to be really nice. Bye, everybody.